I want to welcome Cleiri to the program. I like that you go by Cleiri. You kind of, they say in marketing, if you can just be known by one name, that's really the nirvana of marketing, so that you're like J-Lo. I guess J-Lo's technically two, but people say it like one. And Madonna, any of those names where you just get to be known by one name, and people don't even know the last name. They just know that, and that becomes your brand.
Right.
And you've done a great job of making that your brand in this region. Mm-hmm. How did you do that?
Because I knew that.
Uh-huh.
Because I knew that I could not market any other made-up name.
Mm-hmm.
One, because it's not me.
Yeah.
And one, because I would need to find whatever that made-up name would represent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's difficult to market.
Yes.
How do you market, unless you're the Beatles, how do you market that name?
Mm-hmm.
When you're unknown, when you're still working towards your dream and your goal. So my mother, and I thank her all the time, because she gave me the gift of a unique name.
Yes.
That I don't believe anyone else has.
I've never heard it.
At least not in Brownsville.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of my name, and I thought, that's it. That's all I need.
That's all you need.
That's who I am. I'm Cleiri, and I think that stands alone, and it speaks for itself. And I knew that because I know marketing a little bit.
Yes.
and so I thought, I just got to push that name everywhere, put it everywhere. And, yeah.
I don't know if you might remember this, and I actually don't know if you had this particular class from me, but I think you did. I used to require a book on branding. And it was a bestseller back in the Marketing of the Mind, I think it was called, and it was Positioning. That's the name of the book, Positioning for the American consumer. And it's talking about how to build a brand. Mm-hmm. And anyway, in that book is just what I said, that they said if you can be known by one name, that's the apex of good marketing, to be known as Selena or Cleiri.
Yes.
That's where you want to be. And of course, I think it's even more true if you are a singer, songwriter, to have that brand.
Correct.
And you are both. You're a singer and songwriter, and you transcend a lot of genres. Right now, you are performing, you have like a summer contract, right?
Yes, I do. I have a summer contract. I was, historically speaking, we're one of the only local acts, to be contracted at Isla Grand Beach Resort.
Oh, I was very impressed when I saw that. I said, no, that's the big time.
That's a gig.
That's a gig, because you don't have to go out. And I suppose it's also, in terms of just pragmatics, logistics, you can leave your stuff, I assume, right?
I can leave my stuff. I have a storage room.
Uh-huh.
We have the benefit of that. And we have, for me, I feel very grateful and very happy and proud, because I provide jobs to other people.
Yes.
And they can count on a paycheck. Most musicians don't.
Yeah.
And they do that. So yeah, we get a storage room. That's one of the perks. We can leave our stuff there. We don't have to haul it all the time. And we're hoping that by the end of the summer, when the current contract ends, they're going to book us for 2 weeks straight. So we get 2 condos.
Oh, okay.
So we get 2 condos for free. We stay there. We can stay there the 2 weeks, and everything else is half off, right? If we're going to buy anything, or for free, really.
Right.
But I recently discovered that Isla Grand Beach Resort is also one of the top 5 resorts in Texas.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yes. It was very difficult, and it's not like I planned to do a show at Isla Grand. It was almost, again, by networking and who do you know. My guitarist, who has been in the business for a long time, Nino, and he was asked to go and DJ a few times at Isla Grand. His brother, Edward Maldonado, owns Rockstar Denied, who also has a huge presence at the island. And so one thing led to another. They said, okay, well, come and try out, because it might not work out.
Yes.
So we went, and essentially they said, when are you available? You're available this whole summer because, we want you Fridays and Saturdays.
But this is after you tried out.
After I tried out.
Did you try out in terms of doing a set over an evening to a live audience, or did you just play?
It was a show on a Sunday, 9 to 2 a.m., and we were risking everything, and they paid us very little for it, I was very nervous. It could be as easy as the GM walking in and saying, "Guys, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out." Everything would change, and they're very strict. So typically, a band or a local band is, takes long breaks. They like to relax. They like to have a drink, and
Right.
they go back on set whenever they feel like it. No, this is a professional setting where you play at 9, you're off at 9:40. You can't go past 9:40. So everything's got to be programmed and produced well so that it fits that time. So I produced a show with music and timed it exactly so that it would fit that time.
Good.
So then I play at 9, start at 9, end at 9:40, and I'm back on stage at 10, on the dot.
On the dot.
The song better go on at 10. And these places really work like a Vegas casino. It's more of the casino vibe where they expect the same thing. They don't care if you're playing to one person in the casino. They expect live music at a certain time.
Right.
And that's the same way it works here. And we were able to, it's funny because we practiced all year, not really expecting to get a gig like that. And it's funny because now we talk about it and I'm like, you remember we just started July of last year. A year ago exactly. I had nobody to fall back on. Pre-pandemic, we had gotten together. They called me and they wanted for me to sing with them more as a guest. And after the pandemic, I think we all fell with COVID, November 2020, and we separated. But I kept going. I think a month after I recovered from COVID, I started recording Besos de Miel, and I wrote it while I was in bed, suffering from COVID, still recovering. I wrote Besos de Miel, La Distancia, and Tú. And I swear these things sometimes feel like they fall from the sky. I'm sure they don't. It's not the way it works. But somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I'm Big Lo's manager. I've heard of you. I've seen you around. I think you're very persistent. Can you write 3 songs for me in 2 weeks? I'd like to have you, I think I know a producer who's really good with voices. He goes, he really would accentuate your voice on the booth, and I'd like to record you. I said, sure. I always say yes to things that seem like they're might be weird, but I just like to take chances. I'm like, what am I going to lose?
You've got to.
I have to. And I wrote those 3 songs. I still had COVID. I didn't tell them, but I knew I was going to recover. So I'm like, it should be fine. I should be, fine by the time we record.
Because I'm sure your voice was affected.
It was strained. Right? Yes. And even when I did the demos, you could hear it in my voice where I was struggling. And I did the demos alone. That I went off and I knew I had to do a demo to show him what it would sound like. And I went to McAllen. I found, I did it with Zach James. And I had him, I sang my song to him, and he's one of the best guitarists that I know locally, and he was able to follow, and we produced a demo. We took it to Chago, they call him Chago Santiago, who's the guy who reached out to me, and he's like, dude, I really love this song. And we went in January, so this was late November when I wrote the songs. Mid-December, he heard the demos. And in January, we were in San Antonio recording with Ace, who's a producer. He's a Grammy Award-winning producer,
That's awesome.
By the way.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
But you've got to say yes to these things, especially when you're your age. You never know what it's going to lead to.
Right.
So I remember reading a essay or a column by a New York journalist who, it was called My Year of Yes. And she decided instead of saying no to things, at least for 1 year, she would say yes to every reasonable request. Even men who would ask her out, who she normally would consider out of her interest group, she would say yes. And that was one of the great successes, is she said yes to a man she would have typically said no to, and ended up marrying him.
Interesting.
Because she opened up her possibilities.
Right.
Shut down her biases in a sense. And so, pretty cool idea. But very true, I think, for anyone building a career in show business.
Correct.
Is you've got to reach for the reasonable opportunity. You certainly don't want to be taking the crazy stuff. You got to protect yourself, because you can waste a lot of time. But the reasonable one like that, I think that's well worth doing, and it's led to great things.
Anything that gives and takes is a reasonable decision for me. If I'm getting something from someone or a situation that I feel is going to move me forward, I'm going to take that. Whether the compensation is not always monetary, and I think that's what people think is beneficial all the time.
Yeah.
It's not, because I can't tell you how many times I played for free at the beginning. The same way that I worked for essentially quote unquote free when I was, getting ready to graduate with my communications degree, and I was doing internships at Channel 23.
Yes.
It's the same thing. And you don't do it for long.
You got to pay your dues. You have to.
Pay your dues.
And I always think of a number of musicians that I've heard over the years who would say that, they would talk about they'd be on the morning show, and they'd say, how does it feel to have this overnight success? And they would say, well, it's been 15 years for this overnight success. And so a lot of the people in the listening audience or viewing audience don't realize that there's been 15 years of hard blood, tears, toil, sweat to reach this point. Almost every great band had a garage band period where they had to pay their dues.
That's where we were for a long time.
Yeah.
In the garage, playing and coming up with sets and back and forth every Wednesday. And I have to really thank the musicians who were, because when I had nobody and I had just recorded these songs in January of 2020, I promoted it on my own, but then I realized that opportunities were starting to come for me to start performing places, but I didn't have musicians. And who was going to say yes? I'm talking about men that are musicians. Who's going to say yes? Let's go play for Cleiri, play under Cleiri's name. She's the lead, and and I just kept telling my mom, who's going to play for me if they're not your brother or your sister? You think of Selena, how her brothers were supporting her.
Yeah.
You think of families who work together, like the Kardashians. You think of all these things that are family units who really care for one another, therefore they support each other. I had a hard time doing that, because I had to have meetings with people and convince them that this was a good idea. I play covers, we go gig, but you also learn my original songs and we promote me. And the only way I'm going to do this is if you play under my name.
Well, that's the most powerful sales job you ever had, right there, right?
Yes, it was.
Convincing the general manager was nothing compared to this.
Yep, because I had the music, and quote unquote, the voice, but they had a name before me, and they had years of experience before me, and I thank Sal for that, because Sal had a vision, and he understood the music business and understood that Cleiri's doing this on her own. We could go with her, we could stay here and not do anything, but I think that she's gonna, and she's always told me that, I'm not assuming, he told me this. He goes, I just think that you have this fire under you, and you invest in yourself, and that's why I think it was a good idea to.
I was not surprised, as I was fortunate to have you as a student. I saw it then. I saw the fire. But when you were a student, I knew you were a singer, but I didn't know that you had this passion and this dream at that point. When did you start singing? Is this when you're 2 years old you're singing?
Yes, when I was very little. My first memory of it is my mom getting me, when she was trying to get me to sleep, she bought me a play school radio with a little play school cassette radio, and it had all these bunch of different colors. And she had one cassette that from when she was a child, and she would play it for me every night. It's a cassette, Cleiri. It's Cleiri is a singer, songwriter, also from like 1930s, 1920s, and he did music for children. And I learned all the songs, and it would put me to sleep. But that's how I started loving music, or understood that I already loved music. And after that, I would just learn anything she would put. It was my mom's music that I learned. So afterwards, everything was very mature. Rocío Dúrcal, Vicente Fernández, Linda Ronstadt, Ricardo Arjona. And it was all these international pop artists, pop internacional in Spanish, but that's what I started learning. And when I started, I'd say years later, even when I was in college, I said, I know I want to do this, I just don't know how. Yeah. I don't have the resources, and I don't know people in the business. So fast forward to when I was at UTRGV, or back then UTB, I was, a lot of things happened, but I was graduating from high school, and they hired me at the Collegian to do a job as a reporter. And it was just one thing after another that would just fall in place. So I was able to then, when they opened the radio station at UTB, they opened Sting Radio.
Yes, I remember.
I was like, I want to be there.
Yeah.
And so I had a DJ show, a show, right? I was a DJ. And then, again, just putting in time and learning how everything worked. I interviewed, she got to grab me. I forgot her name. I remember her name right now. I interviewed her, and I was just, no one knew that how passionate I was about this. And I think I kept it hidden away from people because I knew that wasn't my focus. I needed to graduate.
Yes.
And so I was focusing on that. But in 2013, when I was interning at Channel 23, one of the producers said, hey, we're going to have tryouts for Tengo Talento, Mucho Talento. It's a show in California, and it's viewed on Telemundo. And I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. He goes, you should try out. I tried out, and I made it for one of the seasons. And so they flew me out to Burbank it was around August. They flew me out to Burbank, myself and 4 other people from the Valley, and all paid for. We stayed at a little hotel, and they did my makeup. It was my first experience behind the scenes. Awesome. And I met La Chupitos, all these famous people in Mexico, Ana Barbara, a lot of people. I think Jenny Rivera was in the season before as a judge, and she had just died around that time. So anyways, I did one season, and then I was done with that. My heart was broken because I didn't win, right? But you don't realize in those back then that how programmed everything is. It's a show.
Yes.
Everything's set.
Everything's set.
They know who's going to win, or at least who's going to end up in the top 3. Everything's done, and you're just there as a filler. And I understood that later when I became a producer. So then that's it. I let it go for a little bit, got back to what I was doing, graduated from college, and I worked at Channel 4 as a producer. And then I said, I need time for me. So I found a job in PR. It almost felt like it fell on my lap. And then just, again, one thing after another started happening. People wanted me to sing for their bands. And that's how I ended up with knowing the group of musicians I know now. You have to be. Sometimes I'll run into emails like, Cleiri, do you want to come on the show? And it's on Messenger. But now there's so many ways of communication.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's why I miss so much, because there's so many ways that people can reach you. Right. And if you're not checking those particular media right now, then you miss things. I tell my students to just text me. Yeah. I say, text me. That's the fastest way. It's the most certain way of reaching me. Now, tell me about the audience that you have at the island, because I know we get lots of people in from Houston and Dallas who come in the summertime, and the Mexican nationals as well has a huge presence there, particularly in the summer. I mean, I think about 40% of the island is owned by Mexican nationals, right. The properties anyway. So, who's your audience?
A lot of people from out of state, but also people, like you mentioned, from Houston, Dallas area, Austin, San Antonio even, and a lot of people from Monterrey, a lot of people from that area. People who are who have the means to stay there.
Right.
And people who also have an ear for music. I've seen. It's funny because when I started playing there, I felt the difference in the audience myself as a singer, because you're there and you're absorbing people's energy. It might feel to them like they're absorbing mine, but I feel like I'm absorbing theirs. I had played at other, I don't want to say names, but at other venues where I felt the energy of people, and it was very negative, depressive sometimes, and sometimes you're just there to, be background noise. The difference with us, maybe with myself, was that I wasn't there to fill in for people's ear or silence. I really was there to perform, and I would perform like I perform everywhere. And I was entertaining, and what they would do is turn around and look at me like, but I still felt out of place. Like it wasn't the right setting for me. Like they were just kind of expecting an acoustic set. And when we auditioned at Isla Grande, that's what they wanted. That's exactly what they were looking for. Somebody who's an entertainer. They'll have Raymond Horta out there, stand-up comedy. So they have all kinds of different acts where I think that they're coming from out of state, they're coming from other places where they've seen all kinds of acts. And that's what they're looking for, someone who's going to be entertaining them.
So it's Vegas.
It's Vegas at the island.
Yeah. And but if you were to describe your audience, are you saying that they're 50% from Mexico, 50% from Dallas, and it's kind of half gringo, half Mexican? I mean,
Yes,
what is it? Like
half
that?
gringo, half Mexican. That's how I would describe it, because we play everything, and they're okay with everything we play.
So you play some classic Mexican tunes?
Yes.
Like?
So we'll do Luis Miguel.
Okay.
In his 80s. We'll do a little bit of that. We'll do even classic rock. We'll do Kiss, AC/DC.
Wow.
Pat Benatar.
That's quite a range. Yeah.
And it's all organized so that they don't get bored of one thing. The difference between us, and this is something that came from the operations manager, he said, you guys actually are Latin. So a lot of the bands that we get contract from Washington, New Orleans, Groove City, all these other places, and all these other bands, they play some Latin music, but they don't sound Latin, so people can't relate.
Yeah.
They know that they don't know the music.
Yes.
They're just there to kind of play it for them, and you know the music.
Yeah. Plus, if they sing it, it'll certainly come.
It sounds different.
You won't have the authenticity for sure.
It does. It sounds so different. It's funny when every time I can play all kinds of music. It's pop international, and I'll play all kinds of artists. But oh my gosh, people from out of state want to hear Selena.
Yes.
That's something that I think they don't hear coming from an actual maybe girl from the area.
Right.
So when they hear it, that's all they want to dance to.
Yeah.
Selena. And I'm like,
yeah, you got street cred.
You know who was at the show the other day?
Who?
This is the kind of audience we get there. RJ Mitty from Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I've met him. That was my second time meeting him.
His mom lives right across the street from me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've seen him. I haven't talked to him, but I've seen him over visiting his mom because he's in and out from California, I believe.
Yes.
He's not really local, but yeah, he's wasn't he the Grand Marshal or something in the parade
Yes.
for Charro Days, I believe? Yeah.
That's where I met him the first time. But he was in the audience, and we had just played a Selena set. And I knew he was there. I'd seen him after a while. I saw him, and I'm like, oh, wow. I felt so lucky. But then I went up to him because it's one in a lifetime opportunity to go and say, you're watching me. He was just turning around like this the whole time. And I went to go say hi to him. He didn't remember me, but he's so nice and down to earth and polite that he pretended to remember me. He goes, yes, I've met you before. He's like, at Charro Days. He just made a connection to it.
Interestingly, I think I love Selena. I'm not of that demographic because I'm quite a bit older for someone to remember liking Selena when she was hot, so to speak. And the only reason for that is I was here. I was here when she was famous. I was aware of her. I actually liked her music. I never saw her, but all my students, I'm talking about in the 90s, all my students loved Selena.
Yeah.
And I realized the significance of her when she died because everybody was crying. I mean, I knew they loved her, but I didn't realize she was Elvis until she died. And I just saw everybody in tears and brokenhearted, and it was just
so sad.
And then I think that J-Lo's movie, really helped solidify her fame. But I also think J-Lo had the career that Selena would have had.
I agree.
That she just kind of picked up where Selena left off, so to speak, and got the benefit of who Selena was. Nothing against her, but it's just interesting to see that.
I agree.
Now, let's hear some of your music.
Sure.
What would you like to share with us?
I'd like to share with you Besos de Miel because writing-wise, I think it's one of the best songs I've written, and it was also featured in a movie.
What movie?
It's called Rooster. It's a Mexican movie.
Uh-huh.
Tus besos son como miel, se deslizan con los míos y me curan como el té. Te necesito como flor al sol. Quiero despertar con el sonido de tu voz. Estás ahí. Quiéreme más que la sal al mar, que las olas acaricien mi cintura sin pensar. Corre tus dedos sin prisa, el tiempo que más da. Ya no te siento. El calor de tus manos hoy me hacen tanta falta.
You do sound like Selena. But more, I mean, you've got your own
I have my own
flavor,
style.
your own style, but it's of that genre. And the other, I think, it's straight from the heart. I mean, and a lot of passion, as is typical of this. I think of my wife, Lupita is from Mexico, and she'll often, in Christmas time particularly, she'll be in the kitchen cooking and listening to Luis Miguel, or any great classics, and tears coming down, just for no reason other than just the passion of the singing and her connection to it. I'm sure that your very poetic lyrics have that effect on people who are particularly from Mexico because they connect.
And that was really important to me. I had been written in my own time. I've been writing and obviously not recording anything, but I didn't think it was good enough. And it really wasn't. I'm glad I didn't. But when I wrote this, I felt like for the first time, it was almost poetic.
It is.
And there's a lot of metaphors in the song. Tus besos son como miel, se deslizan como los míos y me curan como el té. They cure me like tea does. Corre tus dedos sin prisa el tiempo que más da. So I don't know. I just felt like it was well written for my standards, and
I always like the word in Spanish, sonrisa. I think it's such a nice way to say smile.
Sonrisa.
It's beautiful. And there's a lot of words like that in Spanish that I prefer over the English version.
I agree.
I'll give you just one, butterfly. Butterfly is not an attractive word, but mariposa, that's gorgeous.
Yes, and that's a big difference. When I was talking to Chago, he said, write anything that comes natural to you. Write what comes natural to you. Before I recorded this, I had recorded 2 other songs, Let Me Be and LOVE. And these were rock songs, pop rock. And that was before I got together with these group of musicians. I was with Sergio Quintero, and I was leading a rock band. It was very out of my comfort zone. I'd never sang rock or claimed to have any, love for the genre before that. And I thought, I don't think I can sing it, because they were asking me to sing Metallica. And I did. I sang Metallica. I sang all these hardcore Poison, all these things, Scorpion. And I'd never heard this music. Not only that, but now I needed to find a way to interpret it to be believable.
Yeah.
And 2 years we gigged together. I got the experience on stage singing it. That I wrote 2 pop rock songs, and those were the first 2 songs that I recorded. But it doesn't touch me as near as these songs touch me. When I sing it, I feel it. I really feel like they're mine. It's my interpretation of life or feeling. And
do you cry when you sing?
I cry
Sometimes.
when I sing Besos de Miel and other songs, really. What's Up? And because I guess we're all angry with everything that's going on, and with women having to deal with so many things. Sometimes I do get in a mood on stage, not all the time, but I do sometimes. A lot of women like to sit and just watch, because I feel like, and they sometimes, they're jamming to a song, but when What's Up comes up, or songs like that are a little controversial, maybe Zombie, they're like, like there's a girl that's singing about this, or she's...
So you validate what they feel.
Right. I feel that.
Now with, you were saying a little while ago that it was wonderful to have the right audience.
It's very essential.
And it reminded me of Longfellow, the poet. He said to have great poets, you must have great audiences. Same thing for singers, because, you're poets. And so the same thing for you. Having the great audience inspires your art and makes you write better.
Exactly. It really does. You find your own people.
Oh, I like that. You find your own people.
And I think I'm slowly finding mine. It's I didn't know who to cater to or where to market myself. And that was the most difficult part of this. It's been very difficult. But I'm starting to find my niche, and my people. They feel that I'm, every time I hear comments from them, they're like, you would do anything. And I really feel like if I'm singing rock, I embody that feeling, or if I'm singing Besos de Miel or anything. I
heard Paul McCartney in concert about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
In Fort Worth, and he's 79 years old. 79. He did a 3-hour concert, and you know what kind of energy that takes.
A lot.
3-hour concert. He played like 10 different instruments in that time.
Wow.
But he made this comment. He said, I like to play what I like to play. He said, but the audience wants to hear the old Beatles. He said, so I play the old Beatles for you so that I can play what I want to play.
Exactly. Give and take.
So you have to do that. You have to give them a little rock so that you can play Besos de Miel,
So that I can keep the men sitting in the back, attentive to it. So that I can keep them there, so that I can keep... There's little girls dancing, because I do Dua Lipa, I'll do Lady Gaga, I'll do all these pop songs.
Wow, you do
all
everything.
These songs, yes. And they're like dancing, little girls dancing, like little girls that I'm telling you are, I'm sure influenced by TikTok. I'm talking about 9, 10, 11-year-olds. Right. Maybe your daughter's age.
Yeah.
And they want to stay there. A lot of them go and, tip me. Do you know this song? Do you know this song? But their moms are also, so again, the huge array of music that we provide is catering to everybody.
Well, I'll have to bring Scarlett, because the reason I haven't been out is because I keep saying, Lupita, she won't get a babysitter. She just doesn't trust anybody. Put a make kind of, And So now that I can tell her, look, we can bring Scarlett. She can dance, because she loves to dance. She's part of the TikTok generation. Do you rap too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll do Doja Cat, Megan Thee Stallion,
Wow.
and Lizzo.
What do you not do? You do reggaeton?
We don't have reggaeton in our set list, but not because we haven't done it before. Just because sometimes you need a male vocalist, or sometimes the arrangement needs some help. So that's basically it. But I think maybe reggaeton's the only one we haven't played at Isla Grande. But that's we can play it in between sets with music.
How do we come see you? When are you on?
I'm out there Fridays and Saturdays from 6 to 10, all summer long, all the way through September, Labor Day. And now we're there every Monday till September 5th from 9 to 2 a.m.
So plenty of opportunity.
Plenty of opportunity to catch us.
And is there a cover charge?
No. You go in and it's very family friendly. I would say Fridays and Saturdays are more family friendly.
Right.
We're playing out at the Sandbar. There's a bar. There's a venue where you can get food, and there's pools, and there's the beach is right next to us.
There, right.
Yeah, and Mondays I'd say is more for the adults. But we're in the quarter
You're
deck.
outside?
Outside Fridays and Saturdays. Inside Mondays.
But Clayton's is down about a mile from you?
Yes.
On the beach also, right?
Right. You have Clayton's and Bar Louie down there.
When I used to live at the island years ago, way long time ago in the 90s, I would go to live music, but it was really only in one place. You didn't have a lot of it at the time. Certainly not on the bay, on the surf side. It was on the bay side. You could go to Tequila Sunset,
right,
and they wouldn't have a band. But I used to feel sorry for them because, man, out there in that humidity, they were sweating.
It was funny because this weekend I felt like I had an easy gig vocally on Monday. And I was thinking, why did it feel so easy to just... Well, because I told my guitarist, I said, I think it's because I'm getting used to the elements outside, that I'm forcing myself to deal with the wind, the sand, the sun, and that it felt so easy to go back inside and just relax in the air. Kind of like exercising a muscle. I was exercising my vocal cords out there. I did want to mention something I have not told a soul yet.
Oh, good.
This just happened yesterday.
Scoop.
So this is the scoop. I signed a contract with CHR Records to record a full regional Mexican album.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is so cool. And when will you do this?
So I just signed yesterday, and he said he was going to go out there and check out a live show first. He's seen me before play, and but he wants to go and meet with me in person, and I don't know how that's going to start or what we're going to do first. But
where would you record this?
It's going to be in his studio in Harlingen or McAllen, I believe. But he has recorded all kinds of artists. Rick Garcia has recorded, and he produced Coco Rayado. All these famous Tejano songs that I know he's the perfect person to produce my regional Mexican album.
Well, I guess, like you were saying, you need music that you can feel. He will know how to interpret that in sound,
right,
in the production itself, and get the best out of you. So that's wonderful. And so, do you have a name for this album?
No, not yet. I still we're going to work from scratch. Essentially, I have songs that I've written that I'm going to show him. Again, this goes back to him having to tell me, this is marketable, this is not, this might work, this might not. It was a very hard decision for me. He had asked me to join his label last year, but I don't think I was I said no.
No?
I wasn't ready, and I went off and did my own website, and I went off and did things on my own. He offered me a different contract this year, and I said yes to that one.
Well, one of the things I think is really impressive about your marketing of self is that you have a wonderful media presence, social media presence. You're an Instagram, and I see the crossover of your various promos, and that's a lot of time that goes into that.
I don't. I believe you mentioned this. There's so many things you can do with the fact. So I'm a singer and a songwriter, but I have to promote myself in so many different ways. I manage my website.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go out there and print out shirts to sell on my website. I have to publish myself. I have to write myself. Find somebody to record everything.
And you have great photos.
And I go and book myself for photos because I know I need really good photos for promos. And I just did. I just did a photo shoot for it. But because I know what I need, all packaged together, I need to go and do this on my own time. And sometimes I don't have any time.
So you're not shooting, these are not selfies. You have a professional photographer shooting these.
Yes.
So you know what you want. You hire it done. You hire a professional.
Right. And I say, I don't want anything fancy on the background. I just want a white background. And my outfit's going to be very simple because I need to be able to plug myself into so many things. And if somebody wants a picture, I need a picture for that. This is something Rick told me. He goes, how do you just do that? And yeah, because I know what people are going to ask me for because I do PR. I know what they're going to want in a package.
But on top of all this, you have a job.
Yes, I do.
When do you sleep?
I don't sometimes. I'm not lying. I don't. Sometimes I'm very tired and not in the mood. Maybe I don't socialize as much.
Yeah.
My idea of being social is going out there and singing for people. And that's where I'm most energetic, and that's where I like to leave it at. I'm not trying to plan outings with people because I don't have time for it. I have a goal, and I'm focused, and everything else to me is background noise. I'm very hard on myself in that way. I have a lot of sacrifices to make at home because I don't get to see my parents as often. I don't get to see my partner as often. I have to skip out on parties and family gatherings, and they have no idea what I'm doing. They have no idea what I'm doing. They don't understand it. They don't see what's gonna happen with it. And I keep my musicians motivated, and I say, I'm not afraid because I know that I don't see failure. Maybe if I saw it, maybe I would stop what I'm doing, but I don't see it. Maybe when I see it, I'll stop, but I don't see it now.
Well,
I never do.
And even if you fail a little bit, you keep going.
Fine.
You keep going.
It's fine.
Because most people, when they come to the end of their life, they regret the things, not that they did, but the things they didn't do.
Exactly.
So you've got to follow your dream with full passion, and you never know what turns in the road may come, and you can end up in a different place doing something slightly different from the dream, but still very satisfying. People often have surprises along the way. Certainly it's happened to me, and it's happened to many people in life. But you don't give up. You keep going, and good things will come your way. Like you say, they fall out of the sky, but you have to prep it with a lot of preparation in order for those good things to happen.
You have to be prepared. You have to be the only one prepared. Because if that opportunity comes up, Isla Grant says, are you guys available this summer? If it wasn't because we had practiced a whole year,
Right.
we
It's
wouldn't
a
have been prepared.
perfect example of success coming from opportunity and preparation.
Right.
Opportunity doesn't mean much if you aren't prepared when it comes knocking. So you got to be ready when it comes knocking. Otherwise, you have nothing to deliver. Well, I'm going to come out and see you this weekend.
Oh,
Friday or
excited.
Saturday. I don't know. I have to talk to the boss and see what we can do. But I'll bring Scarlett, and she can dance up front.
Perfect.
Thanks for coming
Thank
in,
you so
Cleiri.
much.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Likewise.